Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers, and welcome back to another episode of Points of Shoe. In this episode, we answer your questions, including things around carbon plate race shoes, super trainers, and we talk about our favourite interval sessions. Right, let's dive in and do the podcast. Nick, my boy, how you doing?
Whoa, unexpected.
Well, you know, it's Friday night, it's sunny, I wanted to perk you up a little bit.
Need to perk up. We're just done a solid 35 minutes of triumph chat. So
Yeah. Well, let's dive in then, because I've got nothing to talk to you about. We've been talking already. Right, so we've got loads of questions for Points of Shoe this week, this fortnight, depending on how often we put them out. We've actually got too many, so we're not going to be able to get through all of them, but we're gonna see how far we can get.
I've got a good question before we start, Tom.
Go on.
Is if you were selling a house, would you take and remove all the internal doors and keep them?
Well, I've actually got I'm quite close to this question. I'm interested you've asked because I've just bought a house and there's no doors.
Tom can shout for his entire house. This really carries. It's beautiful.
Honestly, I was walking around like measuring and going, I need to measure that, and then I thought, I need to measure how far the doors come out because I need to work out where things go. Oh, no doors. So that's an interesting one.
When you get like beaded curtains instead, when you just embrace it, lean into it, no more doors.
Yeah, well, I did say that I was going to put. I actually said to my girlfriend, I'm going to put a beaded curtain up on the bedroom as a joke, but now it looks like we'll have to.
Beautiful. That was very funny. Got a good angry text from Tom earlier. They've taken the doors.
Honestly, I was in there for about an hour and a half, and I hadn't noticed. And then suddenly I realised, and I ran around the house looking at the other doors. And
very easy to run around there, wasn't it? No doors stopping you.
I thought it was a lovely breeze going through the place. Right, that's enough of my shortcomings when it comes to buying houses. Let's talk about shoes.
Oh yes.
So Adam has emailed and said, loving the podcast and YouTube content. Question on shoe rotation. So I started running in the summer and have gotten into it in a big way, going from couch to 5K to running my first half in 8 months. Congratulations.
Nice. Well done.
I've used Hoka Clifton 9 and New Balance 1080 V12, but I'd now like to include a speedier shoe. What would your recommendation be for a beginner's first rotation? Something for longer, easy runs like the shoes I've used before, and something for fartlek training and getting into shorter distances, but faster.
It's a good question. Clifton's not bad for that, to be honest. So I think if you're enjoying the Clifton and maybe want a slightly faster feeling, I think my mind does turn to the Hoka Mach 6. I really like the Clifton. I think it's a really good shoe to start with, actually. And but I do think the Mach would definitely give you that extra pace. It's still a comfy shoe for long runs. Are you, Tom? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm going to ignore the New Balance 1080 V12 because if you wanted to, you wouldn't progress that into the V13 because that shoe's become significantly softer and less versatile than that shoe. I mean, the 1080 V12 is not the most versatile shoe in the world, but it is a little bit harder, so you get a bit more responsiveness from it. Yeah. So I wouldn't go near there. But if you're looking at the Hokas, I do think the Hoka Mach 6, I've not used the Mach 6, I'm talking about the Mach 5 here, but from what you guys have said, it's a pretty standard progression of the Mach 5. I think if you like the Hoka Clifton 9, that's already says to me that you like Hokas, because some people, they don't like Hokas. So the Mach 6 does seem like a natural progression from that. I haven't tried the Skyward X yet. That's probably too far, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I just don't think that's the kind of shoe I would use if I was starting out and running. It's heavier, much heavier than the Clifton, and it is a bit bouncier. But it certainly wouldn't be a shoe I'd go and embrace for fartlek training compared to the Clifton. I'd probably rather be in the Clifton almost. But some people would like those massive shoes. But if you enjoyed the Clifton, I think the Mach is pretty solid. Progression from that as a speedier shoe. Or if you wanted to go for it, you could go for the Mach X, spending a lot more money then to get the plate. And I don't know how much extra you get compared to the standard.
I would if you're going between if you were relatively new and you were picking up your training, I would go for the Mach 6 over the Mach X, just because suddenly you're introducing a plate, and I don't think that plate serves much of a purpose in that shoe anyway. So
yeah, New Balance Rebel is another big favourite. Rebel V4, I think that is another really lightweight shoe. You can do a lot of different styles of runs in it, but it is, the reason we've leant towards the Hoka is because you've used a Hoka and enjoyed it. I think that'd probably be the one to try first, at least. Even just go try it out in a shop, because it's just a nice lightweight shoe, really good for lots of stuff.
Yeah, I do think those two are the best options out there, and they're a bit cheaper than some of the sort of super trainers that are coming out, which you probably don't need yet.
No, I wouldn't go straight to those.
No. Okay. Right. Okay. I hope that was useful. We've got a question from Ian here, who says, a quick question. Thank you very much, Ian. I still have racing flats. I even run a marathon in them. Do you still have any? Will any of us ever wear them again, even for a short distance, or should we just dispose of them right now?
I still got some flats, which I use if I ever do track races, because I'm never really focusing on track racing. I don't tend to use spikes, which I think are better, obviously, for racing. But because I want to run fast, but also protect my legs, usually because I'm marathon training. So I use flats for that. And actually, with the new regulations from November, you'll have to have a shoe stack height of under 20 millimeters if you're going to go into any track races. So actually, even some of the flats won't be low enough. It might end up being spikes. But, I wouldn't use them. Like, they're fun to run in, but they're so light, the shoes these days, like the actual full stuff. I mean, the Adidas Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris is genuinely lighter than the set of spikes I have. And that's just absurd. Yes. So even if you just want a lightweight feeling shoe, and it's nice sometimes to have that more direct feeling, but probably about as direct as I go and enjoy it is more like the Takumi or the Adidas Adios, which is, still upwards of around 33 millimeters of stack height. So I don't really use the flats anymore. I've still got them in case I do turn up at an event for my club to try and help out, but I don't really use them. Tom, I can't imagine you're ever a big flats fan.
No, I've never really used flats. I mean, the furthest I go is Takumi Sen 10, which isn't really, it's a long way off a racing flat. I have tried them before, and the only time I would ever use them is 5K max. But even then, I would still go for Complete max cushion shoe for a 5K.
If Tom ends up below 30 millimeters of stack height, he basically just starts scowling. And
yeah, I do not look good. I mean, I look a lot taller than I do now, but I would say that. Is there anyone that you know that would stick to it? Like maybe people that have never used Complete shoes and are used to using the.
Yeah, I mean, some people might, pull them on once a week for a set of 10 times 400, but I just did that, and I enjoy it much more in these modern shoes because they're so light, and I'm not craving that. Maybe I don't know. I like the Brooks Hyperion, the kind of original flat before it became the Hyperion Tempo. Essentially, it was a nice shoe, and I remember at the time thinking this is really comfy for a fast shoe. But then I got the carbon shoes, and it's hard to go back.
Okay, all right. Well, hope that answers that question.
Okay. This is a good question. Here it comes in from Andreek25. I can't click through to your profile to see your actual name because I will lose my place on Instagram. Sorry about that. I'm not very good at tech. If your retired racing shoes can be used as super trainers, what is the point of buying actual super trainers? It's a good question because we do a lot of our sessions in just old super shoes, don't we, Tom?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do think that, when we talk about using old Complete super shoes, like race shoes as training shoes, we're saying basically they're losing their ability to be used as race shoes, and you're probably not going to want to risk racing a marathon or something in them because you're probably not going to get the best benefits out of them. But I'd still think that if you compare a old Complete race shoe that has lost its magic and it's sort of lost its bounce and stuff, you're still going to get super shoes generally tend to designed to be a little bit more durable, tend to designed to be used a little bit more, which is why they're people have them as well as race shoes. So I think there's benefits to having those, and I think if you get a new pair of super shoes and you get a new pair of Complete race shoes, I think the super shoes are probably going to last.
Super trainers, you mean, Tom? You keep saying
super trainers are going to last.
A very confusing answer you've just given because you said super shoes the whole time.
Right, let me just clarify this. So there's super shoes and super trainers. If you buy them at the same time and you're running them the same amount, I think the super trainers are going to last a bit longer, and you're probably going to get a little bit more out of them when it comes to sort of durability and things like that.
Yeah, I would say with the best super trainers, you're not really. It's not the same use case. So I only use my old super shoes for fast sessions, and I use the best super trainers like the Endorphin Speed and the Boston. You can use those for everything. So they're a lot more versatile as well, I'd say. So it's just a nice feeling on every run, I think, is what you get from the best of them. I think a lot of them don't do that. That's why as a category, I'm a bit down on it because I think a lot of the shoes in it aren't very good and just overpriced. But the best ones, like the Endorphin Speed, the Boston, the Super Blast, they're shoes you can use for everything and they always feel great. And that's a bit different to what I use my retired super shoes for, which is just speed sessions. Retired. None of them are retired because obviously we barely go through shoes. But but if I were to and then they are a bit more stable and stuff like that. So I always call real world training, which is a bit of a stupid term because all the running is in the real world, but my real world training runs won't be on like the pristine courses of races. So I'll be dodging bollards, people and stuff like that. And a super trainer can be a bit more stable and suitable for that than sometimes super shoes. Like, I'm going and smashing out a run around Chingford in the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 2 is going to be a bit risky.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you're right. They are designed for different things, and really, when we're saying you can use your old carbon plate race shoes for training, they don't become training shoes. They're just that you can no longer use them for racing because they've lost the benefits of that. But there are better shoes to wear for training. Like I would never use an old Vaporfly for easy runs or anything like that because it just doesn't have the same. It's not the same shoe, really.
Did see someone walking around in a Vaporfly today. I was wondering where they were going.
Well, have I told you about my mum and Vaporflies?
No.
So I when I used to go home, I used to do races when I went to visit my friends, and sometimes I'd get I had new shoes coming all the time. So what I'd do is tend to take my old shoes back. Then I didn't have to bring them back down to London when I was coming back. And so when I went home once, there was loads and loads of trainers there, and I was like, I forgot I had all of these trainers, and I don't want them anymore because some of these are like an old pair of Vaporfly ones, and I got the 2s now, 2 new pairs of 2s. So Mum was like, I'll have those. I said, I don't think you want. I sort of said, use these ones like some, on shoes that are, completely comfortable and she can use them. But then I came home one day and she was wearing the Vaporflies in 2 sizes too big for her.
Flapping around,
just walking around like Sainsbury's. And I was like, wow.
Very fast shop she did, I bet.
People must have been looking at her thinking, is she a big runner? I've not seen her around at the running club. So there is, but I wouldn't advise it, to be honest. Using your Vaporflies to go shops in.
No, interesting. When I bought my first Vaporflies, it was from a Nike outlet, and there was like Black Friday random, and they just didn't even have them out, and they just told you, these are good gym shoes, these, like the only ones in the whole of London you could find. And I went, they had no idea what they had, and they work for Nike, so fair play to you, man. Right, this is an interesting question, I suppose. Do you use comfortable shoes? This is from Tamutol. On Instagram. Do you use comfortable shoes like Nimbus, Invincible, Morphe at all when you're as fast as Nick? I've read it because he's called me fast there, Tom. But I think the point here is
edit that out.
You are on the edit, as always. I mean, I say that like I sometimes do the edit. Tom always does the edit. This is, I would say, that is not a question of speed; it's a question of taste and running style. So I've talked about it before, I've got a very high cadence style. I think I'm quite a low impact runner because I shuffle, and in general I just prefer lighter shoes as a result, and I don't feel like I get a massive amount of benefit from all the extra cushion. I really like the Invincible 1 and 2. I did like using them from time to time, but if I was building a rotation, my cushion shoe would always be a much more of a kind of daily trainer vibe, whereas Tom, you are obsessed with massive stack shoes, and that again is not because it's not because you're much slower than me, or even we're probably quite a similar weight. It's just preference, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I also think, I mean, if anyone was to sit and go through our Stravas, they'd probably look at your runs and go, he's predominantly doing faster paced runs. Yeah. Most of my runs are slow, and there's I don't like wearing shoes that are designed for speed when I'm just like, just jogging along. I just want it to be comfy, and I want it to be nice. And basically, when I go for a run, I want to do I do relatively high mileage, but I want that mileage to feel comfortable and bouncy. But I when I'm going out, I wear the same shoes as you when I'm going out and doing a
I suppose it's what the comfort level is. So when I get to like the level of the Puma Velocity Nitro or the Triumph, like going up another level of comfort doesn't really bring much to me. Whereas I still think you feel like an extra benefit from going that extra step in comfort.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just comfort. Like there's shoes that I test that are comfortable that, I mean, I still want something else. So I will tend to wear shoes that give me something that's, when I'm going out and doing an easy run, I might be doing 16K or something. I want that 16K to feel like I'm getting a bit of energy return and stuff on it. I'm not just going to go out in the softest shoe in the world, and I'm still marathon training and things. So I think it's just predominantly what the sort of running that you're doing is, and how fast you're planning on doing that. But me and Nick do use the same shoes. It's just that I do tend to veer a little bit more towards the softer end because I'm doing a lot of slow stuff.
A lot of slow stuff. I'd like to do my slow stuff.
Your slow stuff is very different than my slow stuff.
We've got a question here from the Giuseppe. This is one which isn't shoe related, but I do have a good answer, so I thought I'd do it. Do you have a stretching or yoga routine that you'd recommend before and after long runs? I have done the same YouTube video probably over 1,000 times, which is Eckhart Yoga Stretches for Runners. It's 20 minutes. I do it after runs, predominantly in the evening, and I've done it 2-3 times a week, every week since I think mid 2019. So yeah, it's that's really good. Tom, you've recommended a couple of. I've read this out because you've had a couple of good stretching ones that I've used as well.
Yeah, so I went through a period where I was getting injured constantly, and I had to spend a lot of time, like 6 to 10 months, really doing everything right. So I had to do a lot of stretching. I had to do a lot of weights and things like that. So I tried a lot of different stretching videos. I mean, I wouldn't do those stretching videos before running. I do them. Yeah,
definitely afterwards, I'd say.
Afterwards. I've got one, which I'll put our videos in the comments of the podcast. The one I use, I think when it comes to running, it's quite, there's some stretches that are really good and they will tick off everything. And this video is 18 minutes, I think, 15 minutes. And I do it I'm actually not very good at it at the moment, but when I am stretching a lot, I will do it like every day. And I don't think you need to have variety in your stretching if you're hitting all the right stretches all the time. So and it's the one. It just worked for me because like the length of the stretches and everything. It's quite a hard one, but
you're not impressing anyone, Tom.
I mean, I'm warning people if they're going to give it a go. I'm not giving you an easy stretch. Sometimes you see these videos like running stretches, and you think that's not really doing a lot. It's like,
have you said what the video is?
I can't remember what it's called. It's like 15-minute stretches for runners. So I'll put the link into the description. But I use that. That's the only one I use now. Just it always hits the right spots, and it stopped me getting injured basically when I was doing it.
So one of those ones will do you. Me and we both use them a lot. This, I assume, is from someone you know, Tom. Shakes 2208.
Oh God!
Has Tom Wheatley hit his peak and is now on the decline? It's a good question because it's been a tough first half of the year, but I still think we have more to come from Tom personally. So I'm excited to that.
Well, I'm going to have to now because now we've read him out, so I'm going to have to prove him wrong.
Right. Barocinesis, something like that.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, nice one. I'm sorry, having a clue there. Classic. Most anticipated shoe release 2024. Now we're halfway through the year here, so a lot of the most exciting one. Obviously, I was very excited about the Puma Velocity Nitro 3, the Alphafly 3. Metaspeed Sky blindsided us by being absolutely incredible. So, shoes that hasn't come out that I guess would be exciting. I'm very interested to see what Adidas does the rest of the year. Basically, because I don't think they should update the Boston unless they can release a Boston with a better upper, or a more comfortable upper. But that could be one thing. But I think it's fine as it is. It is basically, are we going to see something like the Adios Pro 4? How much of that is going to take, lessons from the Pro Evo 1, which obviously none of us have tested. It's too hard to get hold of. But yeah, are we going to see a Pro Evo, an Adios Pro 4, which feels a bit like the Metaspeed Sky Paris because it's so lightweight? So yeah, that's probably something I'm quite excited for still. How about you, Tom?
So shoes that I know are on the way, which I'm very excited about, are things like the Super Blast 2, which you've seen a lot about on Instagram. Although, to be honest, looking at that shoe, doesn't look particularly different than the previous one. But
bringing in the Metaspeed Sky Paris as new foam, that'd be pretty exciting, though.
Well, so obviously we talked about the Super Blast a lot over the past year, and it's obviously that's exciting me. For me, I'm really really excited about the New Balance Balos.
You have been talking about this Balos for a while.
Well, it's basically a max cushion shoe that's got like performance level super foam in.
Well, that's what the Triumph was, Tom. What happened there? Don't get your hopes up too high.
Well, I got excited about the Triumph as well. So those two, and then I don't know. You might know more than me about this, but if there's an Endorphin Elite 2, that would excite me.
I've heard whispers, and I guess if there is something going to come, I think it would probably be basically the Olympics is coming. Yeah. Everyone will want their latest shoes, so that's why I think Adidas will have to release something for the Olympics. Potentially, Saucony will have an update. It might be in the case that we don't really get them as consumer launches, but we should see something for the Olympics, I'd have thought.
Well, I've got a couple of PBs in the Endorphin Elite, but I have major issues with the Endorphin Elite.
Yeah, it's one of the strangest shoes. I was talking about it today. Actually, Tom's run really well in it, and I think it's really fast, but it just doesn't really. Well, if they can
I think that shoe, and I think I did my Parkrun sub 18 PB in it. But my problem with that shoe is I think it is the shoe I run fastest in, but it's the shoe that I find most uncomfortable for running that fast in. So if they can get the comfort right and sort of modify that aggressiveness quite a bit, then it could be my favourite shoe ever if they get that right.
You got to get the Met Speed Sky Parasol. You've got it. You haven't had a chance to test it yet, right?
I've done a 5K. I've done a part run 5K, but it was a week after London Marathon, so it was. I didn't get the best out of it. But I'm going to do a 10K in it on Sunday.
You're still not in any shape, though. Anyway, we'll see.
Yeah,
good question from
a lot of reasons. I've not been training properly. Yeah.
Saw that dashing through the open doors in your house. This is from P.E. Colin. It's an interesting question because I think we need to. I think it's not true anymore. But you all wear smart rings. Would it be nice? It would be nice to get your opinion on those as long-term users, as runners. I would say we don't all wear smart rings anymore. Really, we wear them when we test them. I think when I first used the Oura Ring, I was very taken with it. I found it really useful. At that time, it felt like the most accurate representation of my recovery and sleep. Now, I do think the watches aren't as accurate, but they are still useful. So I just use Garmin's training readiness if I'm going to use that kind of thing at all, which I don't tend to use very much. But I think the watches are now, if you're really into that stuff, you can get pretty good info out of them. So I'm not a long-term wearer of the Oura Ring anymore. I think it is a very good device for what it does, but as a runner who's going to have a watch, I think you get a good enough experience from that I wouldn't go for the smart. And also, of the ones I've tested, the Oura Ring is the only one I think is good. I have really not been very impressed, but I tested a circular ring that I thought was absolutely dreadful. Yeah. How about you, Tom?
Well, we actually spoke to the other guys about this, about possibly doing a podcast or something about rings. I think there's a bit of a preview if we do that. For me, I've said it before. I'm not massively into sort of novel technologies. I whenever these things come out, I'm always a little bit skeptical about how long they're going to be.
Except for cameras, very into cameras.
I mean, cameras are tried and tested to be useful.
Not if they overheat, eh?
Well, yeah, that's I've only tested the Ultrahuman ring, and at the time I did find it. I liked it, but I said I think it's good for a certain type of person. Like the information that my mum uses from her Fitbit is the same information you get from the ring. If you don't want to wear if you don't want to wear a watch, you can get the same sort of information from it. For me, using a Garmin Fenix 7 Pro, I'm not getting anything from it that I need that thing to do. So I'm basically wearing two things that do the same thing, but one does it better.
There's lots of overlap now, definitely, which wasn't necessarily the case when they first kind of burst onto the scene. It's definitely, if you don't like wearing, if you wear like a nice watch in the day, like an analog watch, you can pop on one of those rings at night. You get. I would also say there's none of them that have convinced me they're of any use in the day. They are really good at just sleep tracking, I think.
And then the other thing as well is like, if I think they've sort of hit the limit so far with the technology that we can get from rings, because Ultrahuman released workout tracking on it, but it just didn't track properly. So I just ended up using
my shop's here, Tom.
Oh, right, okay.
Well, I can come back. It won't take long.
Just come back. No rush.
All right. That all that.
All right, when I get to
sorry, my shop just came. My kids' party is tomorrow, so I just had to unpack billion unicorn things and ice cream things and million cheese roll ingredients. So
right,
all done.
We'll leave this in the pod so people know.
Yeah, we'll leave the whole gap in as well.
I'll just play some little bit of music. Okay, so I was just saying that when the Ultrahuman ring tried to sort of, or has tried to, I've not tested it for that couple of months, but they did try to release a sort of workout tracking, and it just didn't have the capacity to really understand what you were doing. So I think there's limitations with the rings. I think there's a place for them, but at the moment I haven't put it back on for a long time.
Yeah, it was the same with Oura when they brought in the throughout the day heart rate tracking. It just didn't really work. So so that's what we'd say about those. Right, got a couple more here, slightly tricky ones. Most breathable daily trainers for summer. Now, I don't know about you, Tom. I very rarely, if ever, have a problem with breathability in shoes in the UK.
No, I would say that when it does get hot, there are shoes, and not many of them, that I would go, my feet are really hot in these.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often. Most are fine. Like if you're going for anything like the Hoka Mac range, if you're going in like most of the Saucony shoes that I run in, never even notice it. You might get something with like I'm trying to think of a hot shoe. Most of the good ones that we always say are good are fine.
Yeah, I think it's the only thing that gets hot occasionally in a good shoe is if they have loads of padding around the back, it can soak up a bit of sweat and the tongue. But the actual front materials on them are always pretty breathable, I think.
Yeah, it might be an issue if you're getting maybe older shoes or cheaper shoes, which don't normally cover too much on the channel. Like, you're sort of, lower than £70 ones, which you don't really test because they have different materials. I couldn't say. But for most of the ones that we cover on the channel, I would never have any problems with breathability.
Yeah, you'd probably have to find a shoe review channel that lives somewhere where it being above above 20 degrees isn't a reason to comment excitedly.
Yeah, I mean, if you live in somewhere where it's like 32 degrees all the time, then you might get completely insightful views from those runners on the breathability of shoes. But for us, we're not really best placed to do that.
If this is that shoe is from Hitman Hamilton. This question is from Carl Gleichman.
Mm-hmm.
If there were any brand you could work with as a shoe engineer, which one would it be?
There's two ways of looking at this question, isn't there? One is you think you could massively improve their shoes, or you think they make amazing shoes, and
that's a good point. Yeah,
and it would be interesting. I mean, I think the most exciting one to work for at the moment would either be Adidas or Nike, just because I think their technologies are really interesting.
I think you can make a big difference at Nike because you could just say, stop making all your shoes really heavy, the daily trainers.
You could be a pretty impressive engineer coming in with some things at some of those brands. But I mean, look, if you looked at, it'd be very exciting to be working in the world of the Pro Evo type stuff at the moment and seeing where that's going.
Yeah, I think I like Puma a lot. I think it'd be quite cool to be at Puma because they're new, they're novel, they're trying lots of fun things with things like the Fast R and the Fast Forwards. That'd be quite interesting, and they seem quite responsive and to move quite quickly. I think that'd probably be the problem over here, but I think we'd be pretty bad at any of these because we're not shoe engineers and don't understand anything. But
it's interesting you say Puma there because we know the shoe engineers at Puma relatively well from some trips, and it does seem like they have a fun time. So I'd probably go for Puma.
It's just about having fun, which is it's the main.
And they seem to spend a lot of time just trying stuff out just for fun. Let's do this. Yeah, okay, fine.
Has Tom Wheatley hit his peak and is he on the decline? That is a good question. D. Morrish, 155. What are the best running shoes for 40-something heavy men with dodgy knees? Tom, you're 40-something. You're not heavy. You don't have dodgy knees, but you are 40. So can you comment?
So I'm always a little bit when these questions come in, and I think there's different ways you could look at it. So if you've got dodgy knees, you might need support, or you might need shoes that are really heavily cushioned because you want to deaden the impact. So, we're not physios. We can't tell you what the shoes are for those. But if my knees were hurting, I would probably go for the big, soft, stable shoes like the New Balance More V4s, those sorts of things that really sort of deaden the impact, and just avoid anything that's like instability or low drop.
Yeah. I think when it comes to, you're right. You just go try shoes. Find the one that feels right, but you'd probably start with cushioned shoes. But not unstable ones, not invincible. And
I think there is a thing with if you don't know a lot about shoes and you maybe have aches and pains when you go running, you immediately go, I just need more cushioning. I need loads more cushioning. But that might not be the answer because sometimes you buy a shoe that's got loads of cushioning and outside the softness makes it a little bit unstable. Or that's not your problem. Your problem is something else which you need to see a physio about, which might be that they go, no, you need a harder shoe. That's your problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So no answer to that.
No, just go and speak to someone, please.
Quick one here. Jacoby DT, alternative for the Hoka Bondi 8. I would say we prefer all cushion shoes to the Hoka Bondi 8.
All right, so this is interesting though because I think that this is one where the Hoka Bondi 8 we don't like. We're all pretty much the same sort of weight.
Yeah, it's true.
So we don't really. It's probably safe to say that the shoes that need a lot more weight to really get the benefit out of them, we don't get that because we're all around like 70 kilograms around that sort of weight. I think the Hoka Bondi 8, I hate that shoe. It doesn't work for me. I'm too light. It feels like I'm running on a brick. Yeah. But I do think that if you are heavier, you're probably going to get a bit more out of that midsole. And I know some people who do like that shoe because it probably offers a little bit more for them. If you're, really, really heavy and you bang out on the 1080 V13, you're going to really squish that foam and it's going to be too soft. So I think there are people that probably use Hoka Bondi who get the benefits out of it. I just don't think it's a very good shoe. But having said that, there are shoes that things like I'd probably say the Saucony Guide would be a comparable shoe to that because even though it's a stability shoe, it's not really like the old school Kaynos. It's basically just a shoe that's got a big bit of foam that's quite sturdy, which is essentially what the Bondi 8 is.
Yeah, the Guide actually the Kayano, the newest one, is similar. It's a shoe I quite enjoyed running in as neutral runner, and I think it was just a slightly more enjoyable experience than the Bondi, which I just found a bit too tanky. If you want a nice wide shoe like that, then the Kayano, the Guide, good choices, I think.
Yep. Or the Shift.
The shift's kind of been discontinued, hasn't it, I think? But if you can find it, not a bad option. I didn't really like the shift either, so maybe it is like the Bondi.
It was exactly the same as the Bondi. You run on it, the foot hits the ground, you're done, you lift your foot up again, you're going.
The Adistar, the Adidas Adistar was a bit like that, but for such a big, ugly shoe, it had a really good rocker. So that is one that I think got overlooked quite a lot, but it was actually, I quite liked it. For a big, heavy shoe, I wouldn't really wear, but I did like it. Okay. Right. M. Evans 2. Should we make this the last one, do we think?
Yes, let's make it the last one.
This is just a general fun one, I think. It's your favourite interval session.
I actually really like this question. I saw it earlier. Tough one, really. I was, because I coach people and I give them a lot of interval sessions. And the one I find that I like the most and they like the most is pyramid sessions. Because I find that mentally, because you're either building to something and then going back down, it's easier to sort of go, looking forward to the next one. I'm looking forward to the next one because it's shorter, or I'm looking forward to the next one because I'm running a little bit slower than the last one. So because it breaks up the effort level a bit, it's easier mentally to deal with. The ones I hate are the ones where you're consistently running the same interval over and over again and trying to hit the same pace over and over again. Because I've done, and I know you've done these as well, where you like do 15 intervals at the same of like a minute or 2 minutes or something, and all you're thinking is, I've got 12 more of these, I've got 11 more of these, I've got 10 more of these, and it's just really mentally hard to sort of plan those.
Well, I like those ones.
I know you would like those ones, yeah.
So my favourite probably interval session on the track, it would be 10 times 1K, I think.
Yeah. So it's got the beauty of those is the simplicity, and the pacing is very clear. You know what you're doing with it. So for you, where you're very much focused on understanding your pace and everything, that's good for you. But for me, it's like,
a K rep is also the perfect rep on the track because it's 2.5 laps. So by the time, you're almost you do one and you go, I've only got one small round really. The last 200 take cares of itself, and you hit the 600, you go, I've only got one lap now. And whereas mile is a slight, I did 10 times 1 mile during marathon training. That's just too far. It knackers you out. But we don't have I do lots of interval sessions where I don't do all out. I've never done an all-out 400 meters with my coach, for example. Like you would never do that. It's always, you've got to hit a pace, which is a fast pace. You're not going to get very much recovery, and you're going to do it again, and you can do it again. Last marathon block I did a 10 times 1K into 10 times 400, and that was quite nice. Just really long, but broadly speaking, also the best thing about a K rep favorite thing about a K rep is it's the right length for one. It's, it doesn't take that long. You can, if it's a windy day, have the wind at your back 3 times over the course of the thing, because obviously you're doing one straight 3 times. So whereas a mile is even, you can't do that. So it means in winter marathon training for London Marathon, which I do every year, it's the best session because in most it's always windy. It's so windy here. You go like, well, at least on this session, the wind is in my favour for the majority of it.
Well, mile reps for 70% of the running population are too long. It's just too long a distance, and you can't really. I mean, I think it's a really good one if you train and do miles and you really get to understand the mile distance. You've really got your pacing and your right. But for most people, it's such a hard one. I think there's another part of this as well, which is I probably would choose different sessions if I'm on the track, or if I'm doing them. My favourite session would be different on the track than it is on the road.
Yeah, on the road I do longer intervals definitely. Because it's much. Yeah, if you're pacing something a mile and under on the track is so much easier, because on the road it's you go and run. If I've got to run a K at like say 10K pace, I'm going to go out way too quick on the road. And on the track, I will go out too quick. But after 200 meters, I'll start adjusting it quite quickly because, I don't want the GPS to kill me in a rep on the road. So,
And shorter reps lend themselves very nicely to the track as well, because, of course, if you're doing 400 meter reps or 800 meter reps, it's very easy to go to plan it in your head and go, right, I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Whereas on the road, it's like 400 meter rep seems a bit weird. I find it's
really weird, and it's such a short thing. The GPS can be completely nuts. So I like fartlek on the road, in the forest, stuff like that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just you're not really running to a pace. You're hitting things. You're just hitting the effort. That's quite good in the winter when you can't run quick. Anyway, I find it. But 10 times 1K is gold. It's good. Yeah, because I think anything shorter than that, 800. I take one session I love. I've only done it once. It's because it's much more of a 5K session, and this is a real puker of a session. It's 4 rounds, and the set is basically you do a K, and then you jog the 100 meters from the end of the K thing to the next kind of marker. If there's markers every 100 meters on the track, and do a 400 meter rep. And the K reps were faster than 5K pace, so I was doing them try and do sub 3 minutes, then go 100-meter jog, and then do a 400, slightly quicker than that. Did 4 sets of that, big recoveries in between, and it's unreal how hard it was. Like, cause I don't run that kind of flat out stuff very much, so that was quite exciting for me to do. I don't know if I'd want to do it regularly. I did an indoor season where I did a few more flat out reps, and they are very exciting and they are fun, but in terms of ones I would actually could see myself doing regularly for the rest of my life, 10 times 1K is my favorite.
Well, the other thing about doing reps like the 10 times 1K is that if you have to plan it yourself. Like sometimes I'll use Training Peaks and have the session in there. But if you say I went out for a run now and I haven't bothered to plan anything, just doing the same rep over and over again makes it very easy. You don't even need to put it in your watch. You just look at the time and you just do it, which it does. That's a nice benefit to it. But if I'm planning, I do like to have a little bit more to it than the same rep.
Key is short recoveries. That's what makes a session fly by. 10 times 1K, you do the 200-meter jog back to the 400-meter line as your recovery in about 90 seconds, and then go again. And you get your session done, and you never really get a break. But
oh, well, it sounds like we need to delve into interval sessions in more depth in another podcast.
Yeah, keep asking those questions. We
training questions are fun. Yeah,
it's more shoe questions we should be doing. It's points of shoe, Tom. It's not points of training. It doesn't even work.
No, that's true. That's true. Well, we do
train of thought. We could call the next one.
Train of thought. Yeah, I'm not sure that works, mate. Right, that'll do for this week, I think.
Yeah, catch you on the 50 flip.
No, that's not.
I can't wait. Enjoy your doorless house.
Thank you. Breathe. This episode of the podcast was presented by Tom Wheatley and Nick Harris-Fry. It was produced by Nick Harris-Fry. The music was by Fear of Tigers.